All right, welcome back to the show, everyone. Hope you all are having a good day so far. So, video popped up on my feed here, and I wanted to check it out with you guys. Apparently, I am subscribed to this channel. I think, honestly, I watched like the first minute of this video and then immediately subscribed. I think that's how it just went down a couple of days ago, but I'm not 100% sure. My memory's a little shaky, you see. But anyways, this video is titled Meet the Man Who Ruined Basketball by a YouTube channel that is LJP Hoops. This video came out about 2 weeks ago, and well, yeah, I think what this is going to get into is the analytics and the data end of basketball, and it's going to probably cover who introduced that to the league. That's the impression I got just off the thumbnail, at least. And yeah, not much to talk about it. Let's talk about it as it goes, because I have a very strong opinion about this, and I think data and analytics definitely did destroy the league, and it came at a time where the league got much softer at the same time. So between like Adam Silver, LeBron James, and this dude, yeah. And then every other team, whatever, every other team owner and coaching staff and everybody that decided, okay, let's just go off the data and analytics and not do anything different. This is what's all to blame for the league, plus too much damn money. Anyways, let's get into this. I'm going to link the original video down below in the description for you guys. This channel has 13,000 subscribers, so if you guys like it, a subscription would go a long way with a channel like this. So, you know, that's just if you enjoy it. But let's do it. Please leave me a like. It helps out a ton. And yeah, here we go.
Ratings are down with the NBA.
I love basketball, and I'm worried about basketball.
Oh, that's Morey, isn't it? Darryl Morey?
The NBA has a major problem. A league that once dominated TV screens is now facing record low viewership while its competitors are on the rise.
This was the highest rated Super Bowl of all time.
The NFL just big footage on.
That's crazy. It was such a high rated Super Bowl, and it was actually a blowout as well.
The NHL has figured it out.
Yeah.
They've cracked the code.
World Series drew larger audience in Japan than NBA Finals did in US this year.
Why? Well, it's probably not news to anyone that over the past 5 to 10 years, three-point shot attempts in the NBA have been going up and up and up.
Yep.
And quite frankly, it's reached a point where the game itself, the product, is repetitive.
Boring.
And one-dimensional. Every game looks the same.
Celtics 14 of 56 from three.
Hornets and Bulls met in Chicago Friday.
Missing a combined 75 three-pointers.
I think the three-point shot.
And what's crazy is that pull-up three that we keep seeing over and over again, you know, like maybe there's still 20 seconds left on the shot clock, has historically been deemed the worst shot you can take. I mean, we're not talking statistics here. We're talking like, what's the worst thing you can do? You know, all five of you run down to get to the offensive end of the court, and they're rewarded by nothing, by the dude who had the ball just chucking up a three without even running a play and getting anyone else involved. It's bad.
He's hurting the league.
A lot of fucking threes being shot.
It's clearly a disaster.
Now, I'd always been of the belief that this was simply a ripple effect of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and the Golden State Warriors.
And the dream season is now complete. Redemption for Golden State. The fourth title in 8 years.
But a few weeks ago, I came across another individual. An individual who isn't often spoken about, but whose impact on the game of basketball is arguably greater than that of any team or any player. This is a man who has been labeled by many NBA insiders as the man who ruined basketball.
Darryl Morey.
His
right?
name is Darryl Morey.
Darryl Morey.
Daryl Morey.
My buddy Darryl Morey, I think, is the smartest guy in the league.
And he is the current general manager for the Philadelphia 76ers. When I first heard about Darryl Morey, I thought, this is ridiculous. There's no way this guy could have revolutionized the NBA. I mean, he doesn't even play basketball. He's literally a general manager. But as I gathered and pieced together more and more information, what I found was a truly fascinating story.
If he's such a genius, then how come he can't put together a winning team with all of his formulas just once?
story that dates back to 2006, a story that involves a Hollywood movie, a computer science degree, and a landmark discovery which would act as a catalyst for the three-point era. This story not only explains why the NBA looks like it does today, but it also holds the answers as to how we can fix it.
All links back to Moneyball, doesn't it?
Now, my first thought in all of this was to say, well, how? How did Darryl Morey, a general manager, manage to ruin the game of basketball? But I quickly realized that in order to answer that question, I needed to know more about who this guy actually was, where he came from, how he made his way into the NBA.
Okay, cool.
So I
don't
did
know
some
about
research, I scoured through countless podcasts, various articles, and honestly, information about this guy's past was extremely hard to come by. But eventually, I found something extremely interesting. So Darryl Morey's first job in the NBA was with the Boston Celtics. He was hired by White Grausbeck in 2002 as Senior Vice President of Operations and Information. Morey was tasked with things like assessing ticket sales and pricing items in the arena. Basically anything to do with numbers.
Yeah.
After all, he was a problem solver. Morey had earned a bachelor's degree in computer science from Northwestern University and had later completed a Master's of Business Administration at MIT. Now for Morey, working with the Celtics was a dream come true. He loved two things, numbers and sports. But one day in March of 2006, Darryl Morey receives a phone call from the owner of the Houston Rockets, Leslie Alexander. Alexander explains to Morey that he's looking for a new general manager and would like to have an informal meeting with him. So of course, Morey flies to Houston. The Boston Celtics think nothing of it. I mean, why would they? To them, this guy was merely a maths nerd. So Morey and Alexander have lunch, they talk some basketball, and by 2 p.m. that day, Leslie Alexander had asked Darryl Morey to be his new general manager.
Crazy.
Now, don't get me wrong. Darryl Morey had earned a reputation in Boston as a hard worker and a pretty smart guy. But general manager? That was a position almost exclusively reserved for people who had played, coached, or at least had some experience in talent evaluation. Darryl Morey had none of those things. I mean, his colleagues back in Boston thought it was a mistake. Some even thought it was a joke. And at this point, I'm as confused as Darryl's colleagues back in Boston. Did he have some dirt on Leslie Alexander? How exactly did this man just get a job as a GM? And more importantly, why was Leslie Alexander so convinced that Darryl Morey was the right person to run this team? And what I came to realize was that the answer to those questions actually lies within a popular Hollywood film.
Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, I've never actually seen Moneyball. I've only seen some parts of it.
That many people have heard of the movie Moneyball.
We all know
if you
about it.
haven't, or you have but aren't familiar with the nuts and bolts of it, allow me to refresh your memory and explain why it's important. So in 2003, best-selling author Michael Lewis writes this book called Moneyball, The Art of Winning an Unfair Game. He documents how just a year ago in 2002, the Oakland A's built a competitive baseball team on a limited budget. The A's, they were a small market team, and their general manager Billy Beane knew that he couldn't compete with big budget teams like the Red Sox and the Yankees. So he had to find an edge. And he found one. Analytics. You see, everyone in baseball was trying to build their teams the same way, by paying top dollar for stars who fit the traditional mold of what a baseball player looked like. Scouts would often evaluate players based on intuition and gut feel. But Billy Beane and his assistant Peter Brand identified this as a fundamental flaw in the way baseball teams were being run. People who run ball clubs,
they think in terms of buying players.
Your goal shouldn't be to buy players. Your goal should be to buy wins.
And in order to buy wins, you need to buy runs.
Billy Beane and Peter Brand decided to throw conventional wisdom out the door and instead built a roster using only data-driven insights. They weren't interested in physical appearance, star power, or so-called intangibles. They were interested in one thing, and one thing only. Does this player or does he not get on base?
Why do you like him?
Because he gets on base.
What is it?
The Oakland A's finished that season with 103 wins. They won 20 straight games, the longest streak in almost 100 years, and they topped their division whilst only spending $39 million.
Swung on, deep right field, gets it again.
Do you know who else won 103 games that season? The New York Yankees, who spent $110 $26 million.
You won the exact same number of games that the Yankees won. The Yankees spent $1.4 million per win, and you paid $260,000.
So why is this important? Well, it's important because it woke people up. It woke people up not just in baseball, but in every sport, to the fact that, hey, maybe these people who have been running these organizations, these scouts, recruiters, GMs, maybe they don't know everything there is to know. Maybe there's a more efficient way to do things. Maybe there's a more efficient way to do things.
So then the basketball version is, instead of they get on base, it's they can hit a three. That's why it all looks the same.
So a few years after Moneyball was published, someone named Leslie Alexander stumbles across this story. He's intrigued. The concept resonates with him. Who wouldn't want to win more games and spend less money? Alexander was absolutely sold on the idea and wanted to pioneer an analytical movement in the NBA. So what did he do? He hired a mathematical genius with a bachelor's degree in computer science and absolutely zero experience in traditional talent evaluation. You see, in the eyes of everyone else, Darryl Morey was unqualified. But in the eyes of Leslie Alexander, he was one of very few people that actually was. Because there's a few things I left off Morey's resume at the start. For 5 years before joining the Boston Celtics, he worked at a company called StatSync, where he studied, created, and refined statistical models. He learned how to break down large sets of data and turn them into actionable steps. But for Morey, analytics wasn't just a job. It was his passion. He too had lived through the analytical revolution in baseball and was absolutely captivated by the thought of transforming raw data into strategies that could redefine success. And Leslie Alexander hired Darryl Morey because he understood the value in that. All of this provides us with crucial context as to what is about to happen over the next 15 years and how we got to where we are today. Because during Darryl Morey's time with the Houston Rockets, he would introduce a revolutionary approach to building NBA teams. An approach that was built on the foundation of a few key discoveries. Key discoveries that would lead to a new way of thinking, a new way of strategizing, designed specifically to exploit inefficiencies in the game of basketball.
This was something you were passionate about for years. Like, right, this is the biggest inefficiency going right now.
These discoveries didn't just change how people viewed the game, but changed how the game itself was played. This would later be known as Moreyball. So, Morey takes over as the general manager of the Houston Rockets in 2007. He inherits a team with Tracy McGrady, a 5-time All-Star, and a 7'4" Yao Ming. This, at the time, was considered to be a championship-level team.
Yeah, they were.
Hence, at the beginning, Morey's job and directive from Leslie Alexander was relatively straightforward. Consolidate a team around these two players and win now. But then Tracy McGrady's knees gave out.
Boy, you hate to see this. Tracy McGrady playing so well.
And Yao Ming's foot gave out.
He is going to have a bone graft, and then he's going to have a second surgery.
Tracy McGrady was subsequently traded in 2010, and Yao Ming was forced to retire just a year later in 2011.
Basketball giant Yao Ming announced this morning that he is retiring.
In a matter of a few years, the Houston Rockets went from serious title contender to a team in desperate need of reinvention.
Yeah, that Houston team was one of my favorites ever, all time. But injuries, man.
But there was a silver lining here, because with Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady out of the picture, this opened up a unique opportunity for Morey to really take control of this team, to implement a vision that he had developed upon years and years of working with statistical models and analysing data. A vision which was built on the foundation of a few key discoveries. First and foremost, Morey had identified that NBA teams were wasting possession after possession after possession, shooting mid-range jump shots. Through 2000 to 2010.
There it is, everyone, by the way. There it is. That's what killed the mid-range right there. Analytics. I've been saying it for a long time. Analytics killed the mid-range shot.
Mid-range jump shots accounted for roughly 35 to 40% of all field goals attempted each game. To put that in perspective, layups and dunks were around 15 to 20%. Three-pointers were also around 15 to 20%. and free throws were around 10 to 15%, while other niche shots like floaters and hook shots made up the rest, but that's besides the point, because this is where things get really interesting. In 2018, a company called Shot Tracker analysed the efficiency of each shot in basketball dating back to 1998, and they found that the shot that yielded the fewest points per possession was the mid-range jump shot. So between 2000 and 2010, the most popular shot in basketball was the least efficient shot in basketball. And this is where Darryl Morey, like Billy Beane did all those years ago, identified a fundamental flaw in the way the game was played and understood.
And that's what the sad thing is, because I know I can't argue against the data, you know, because then I'd be full of crap if I did. I'm sad that the data actually shows this, because the end result, I'm a viewer. I'm a fan, you know, I'm a consumer of basketball. And you take out the mid-range, and the game has been so boring to me. But what am I supposed to do? You know, the only thing that can change this view about the analytics is viewership going down, which it has been. But still, even if viewership goes down, the data is still going to show that you should be shooting that three ball nonstop. So how do we change that unless we get rid of the three-point line altogether, which is a wild thing to do? I don't have another solution. You know, we can't just say, screw the three ball, stop shooting it. Well, the data shows. It shows me something I don't want to see.
Decades, this shot had been romanticized as a sign of skill and success. But what the human eye failed to recognize was that this shot was costing teams points. Costing teams points not because players were bad at shooting from mid-range, but because there was an alternative shot that was criminally undervalued. Shot Tracker also concluded that an above the break three, which is just a fancy way of saying a three-point shot that wasn't taken from the corner, offered 1.05 points per possession, and a corner three offered 1.16 points per possession. In other words, if a team shot 100 mid-range jump shots, they would score on average 79 points. But if a team shot 100 above the break threes, they would score on average 105 points. Yet between 2000 and 2010, teams only attempted a lousy 15 or so per game. The thought process was that the three-point shot was more difficult, and yes, it was, but the fact that it was worth 50% more than a two-point shot completely outweighed the fact that it was slightly longer.
And that's the whole problem, which is why I think the only way to fix it is to get rid of that line and just have everything worth a 2 point, unless it's a free throw, that's 1 point, but all field goals, 2 points. I'm going to keep saying it because everyone thinks I'm crazy when I say it, but there's a reason. There's a reason why, because we're going against an algorithm, data. You know, that's what we're competing against here. So the only way to reduce the amount of threes is to literally get rid of it. Because if not, he just broke down the numbers for you all. The numbers say shoot more threes, especially corner threes.
Essentially, Morey realized this before anyone else and knew that he could gain a competitive advantage if he assembled a team of players who excelled in taking the three most efficient shots in basketball: three-pointers, free throws, and layups. So, after Tracy and Yao went down, Morey and Alexander decided to take a unique and somewhat radical approach to getting this team back into championship contention.
Where do the Rockets go from here? What are they going to do with themselves next season, Rick?
They're in a tough spot. Every move that they've made to this point has given the indication that they are trying to rebuild on the fly.
They decided they weren't going to bottom out for a top 5 pick in the draft, but instead, Morey would keep the team afloat for a year or two, while relentlessly accumulating undervalued assets, draft picks, and role players who fit his analytical vision. However, Morey also knew that he needed a star player. That's one thing you can't do in the NBA, is win a championship without a star player. And in the summer of 2012, it became apparent to Morey that Oklahoma City were looking to shop their young backup point guard, James Harden. You see, at this point in time, OKC already had Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, 2 max players. And with Harden emerging as a serious young talent, they knew they couldn't afford to keep him when his contract was set to expire the following summer. So they had to trade him now or they'd lose him for nothing.
Who's the better point guard, James Harden, Russell Westbrook?
Point guard?
Yeah.
I'm still going to say it's Westbrook.
This was music to Daryl Morey's ears. He absolutely loved James Harden. In fact, Morey was so invested in acquiring James Harden that he had tried to trade for him 6 times already since he'd been drafted.
Wow.
Why? Because James Harden excelled in 3 specific areas.
Yeah.
3-pointers, free throws, and layups.
It's a good video, man.
Now the season opens on Wednesday in Detroit. How tough is it going to be to get up to speed and also to get that chemistry with your new teammates?
It's going to be tough.
And Douglas off to Hart. That's how you shoot 41% from downtown. Hart sticks it from downtown. Harden for 3. Go to Harden with it. Why not? Harden hits it.
In James Harden's first game as a Houston Rocket, he dropped...
Real quick, I just thought about it because you know how James Harden always collapses into playoffs? He's always choking in the playoffs, hence why he's never won a championship, at least to this point. He's not the only one. Is that because higher pressure affecting the three-point shot more than it would if you were taking it closer to the basket shot, being less pressure and easier to make? But taking the more difficult three-point shot, do you think that pressure has anything to do with it? Because it's just something I'm thinking about, that why, we rarely see a team that just does nothing but chuck threes. They tend to fall apart in high-pressure situations. Let me know what your thoughts are on that one, please.
37 points, 12 assists, and 6 rebounds.
What a debut for the bearded James Harden.
Daryl Morey had his man, and it was go time.
Harden on the drive, uses that big pick by He's got Ibaka on him. Harden. James Harden!
That season, the Houston Rockets shot an extra 1,339 threes. That's an increase of 78% from the previous season. I mean, just have a look at this shot chart. This was the Houston Rockets in 2012, and this was the Houston Rockets in 2013.
Good Lord.
Daryl Morey's vision was starting to come to life.
Yeah, look how much less variety there is in just 1 year. From that to this, they pretty much just tried to eliminate any mid-range whatsoever. So you could already see it. You could already see where their target is. It's within those lines. Anything else within those lines? No way. No way. Don't shoot it. Damn, dude. That's crazy.
Houston Rockets in 2013. Daryl Morey's vision was starting to come to life. The following year in 2014, the Rockets led the NBA in three-point attempts, and the wins began to come.
There's a new three-point record holder in Houston. Chandler Parsons with 10 3-pointers in a game.
So they doubled down in 2015, absolutely blowing the door off its hinges, attempting an NBA record 32.7 threes a game.
Jeez.
Another 50-win season. This time they finished second in the Western Conference, only to the Golden State Warriors, who they would eventually fall to in the playoffs.
Iguodala behind the back. Finds Thompson, another three. Bang!
In 2016, however, the Rockets took a step backwards and were largely overshadowed by Steph Curry and the Warriors, who broke the regular season wins record and then went and acquired Kevin Durant in the offseason.
The news again coming in moments ago, Kevin Durant heading to the Golden State Warriors.
But to Morey and the Rockets' credit, they weren't phased one bit. And in 2017, they tripled down. Absolutely.
See, okay, you guys, yeah, for all those who always just blame Steph Curry, the Rockets already, at this point, had shot more than 800 more threes in 2016. All the way back in 2016. So you can't just blame Steph Curry. They started something, but all these teams above them, the Nets, the Celtics, the Cavs, and especially the Rockets, had already been shooting more threes than them. How do you explain that? Because you don't have those two brilliant shooters of Clay and Steph, the freaking Splash Brothers. So that's the reason why Golden State was shooting so many threes. But all these other teams, what's your excuse? It's That's why I don't tend to blame Steph all the time for this. Yes, they started something, but everyone else took it way to the extreme.
Shattering the all-time record for three-point shots taken in a season.
I got to give credit to Houston. There's a sentiment out there that says some of these teams are scared off by Golden State. That's not Houston.
Once again, the Rockets had a hell of a year, finishing with 55 wins. And while they didn't go all the way, it was clear they were closing in. They just needed one more piece.
The hyper-aggressive general manager of the Rockets, Darryl Morey.
The Rockets have reached an agreement on a trade for the Clippers CP3.
Chris Paul to the Houston Rockets.
A major trade. This is a brilliant trade for Houston.
And in 2018, not only did they once again break the NBA record for threes attempted in a season, they absolutely obliterated the competition.
Oh, man, hard. Oh, he stared at Wesley Johnson, and then he hit the three. 26 three-pointers for the Houston Rockets.
42%, Nagy, of their offensive attempts come from three. It's insane.
Do you understand what you're witnessing?
This was more.
What did I just read?
Insane.
Do you understand?
90 points against the Suns in one half. Man.
Understand what you're witnessing?
What the hell is that?
This was Moreyball. This was what Darryl Morey had envisioned all those years ago.
Gordon steps right, shoots for the win, and he gets it! Eric Gordon beats the buzzer! In the corner, Gerald Green!
James Harden was named the MVP, and the Rockets became one of just 20 teams in NBA history to have won 65 games in a season. Then came the playoffs.
Yeah.
This was undeniably their best chance yet at winning an NBA championship. They annihilated the Timberwolves in round one.
They beat the brakes off the T-Wolves last night.
They annihilated the Utah Jazz in round two. And here they were, staring down perhaps the greatest team ever assembled, with not only a shot at redemption, but a chance to go to the NBA Finals.
Already, James Harden letting his presence be known here.
The Warriors took game one. Houston tied the series at 1 game apiece. The Warriors took game three. Houston tied the series at 2 games apiece. This was what they wanted. A best-of-3 showdown against the reigning champs.
Max, who's going to win and go up 3-2 in this series?
The Rockets.
And with less than a minute remaining in Game 5, the Rockets were on the verge of victory. And then it happened.
Guarded by Creighton. Paul on the spin. Rebound, Lee. Chris Paul is down. Chris Paul is hurt. He did not pass half court on that last play.
Chris Paul, their missing piece, went down with a hamstring injury.
Yeah.
It looks like it's the
that happens to him a lot.
He's holding it. Oh, man.
And while the Rockets ended up winning Game 5, the mood in the arena, in the locker room, was soured.
The Houston Rockets are not beating the Golden State Warriors without Chris Paul.
Nevertheless, the Rockets were still up 3-2 and had 2 chances to close this thing out. Unsurprisingly, they lost in Golden State. But Game 7 was at home, in Houston, and the Rockets came out firing, putting on an absolute clinic.
Thompson played well against Harden the other day after the defensive back.
Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson were down 10 points at the half. They were on the ropes.
Gordon races across. Gordon takes to the rim and scores.
What happened next, however, is one of the most absurd sequences of events I have ever seen in my entire life.
Harden behind the screen.
The Houston Rockets missed 27 threes in a row. 27.
Yep. Live by the 3, die by
I
the
saw
3,
a
we
YouTube
used to say.
comment the other day that said the chances of a 36% three-point shooting team going 0 for 27 is 1 in 186,000. And it happened in the worst possible.
Game 7, pressure. High pressure situation. You can't take pressure into account when it comes to data and analytics so easily.
Moment.
Ariza for 3. Cannot find the range is there a point, Reggie, where you stop shooting?
The Houston Rockets had a saying.
What did he say?
Behind the rings, is there a point?
Is there a point, Reggie, where you stop shooting? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, maybe take the ball to the basket a couple times, maybe. Get some confidence back in. I don't know.
Point, Reggie, where you stop
Basic psychology.
The Houston Rockets had a saying that season. Live by the three, die by
that's
the
what I
three.
said.
Ultimately, the Houston Rockets died by the
Yes,
three.
sir.
This crowd is stunned. The 65-win Rockets are not gone.
And of course, the pile-on began.
See, this was the team that basically lost this game because of their whole mantra, which was shooting threes.
So you know what, James? I need y'all to go out and shoot as many threes as you can in this second half so we can what?
Lose. I thought that was one of the worst choke jobs I've ever seen an NBA team have.
1 for 30 from 3.
Insane.
1 for 30.
What analytics say, you know what, you need to shoot 44 threes?
But, as John W. Henry once said to Billy Beane, the first guy through the wall.
He always gets bloody.
Always. Sure, the Houston Rockets died by the three, but where would they have been without it? Probably a middle-of-the-run team who no one cared about. Maybe they'd still be rebuilding from the devastating loss of Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming. You see, the fact of the matter is that between 2013 and 2020, the Houston Rockets attempted the most threes in the NBA. They attempted the most free throws in the NBA. And, surprise, surprise, they scored the most points in the NBA. Did those points lead to wins? Yes. The Houston Rockets had the third highest win total of anyone in that time period. Only the Golden State Warriors and the San Antonio Spurs won more games. But what's even more telling than how many games they won was the efficiency with which they won. Between 2013 and 2020, NBA teams paid on average $2.3 million per win. The Houston Rockets paid $1.8 million. Nobody in the NBA had a better cost per win ratio than the Houston Rockets. I mean, listen to this. In that 7-year stretch, the Los Angeles Lakers spent $757 million. They won 260 games. The Rockets spent $735 million. They won 413 games.
Jeez.
How? Because they found value where others couldn't. And that value lay in the three-point shot. You want to score more points? Shoot more threes. You want to win more games and spend less money? Shoot more threes. So what do we have now? We have an entire league that shoots more threes.
Yeah, because you don't have to pay as well. I mean, I guess we do now. But that mentality is like if everyone can do it, then no one is special. So we don't have to pay high dollar. We don't have to do max contracts for anybody because anybody can step in, next man up, and shoot that three. You know what I mean? So it makes sense on a financial aspect, but it also makes sense as to why we're all kind of complaining that the game is boring. Everyone looks like a carbon copy of each other, and that's by design.
In fact, they shoot so many threes now that basketball has become borderline unwatchable. Ratings have tanked, viewership is down, and I think Charles Barkley is merely a few months away from having a meltdown on national television.
I'm not worried about Darryl Morey. He's one of those idiots who believe in analytics. And listen, I wouldn't know Darryl Morey if he walked in this room right now. Analytics.
No, don't go down.
No. I mean, between these analytics idiots and these millennials, they done ruined the NBA.
But the good news is, we can fix this situation. You see, when Morey was asked about the state of today's game and the impact he has had on it, he said, and I quote, "When people get mad at data, they're just being mad at gravity, because analytics isn't good or bad, it just is." In other words, the onus is not on people like Morey to preserve traditions and aesthetics. Analytics is a neutral process. It's simply a tool to maximize efficiency. And if its outcomes are undesirable, then the league needs to adjust the rules that shape those outcomes.
Agreed.
This isn't on the players. This isn't on coaches, GMs. This is on the NBA to adapt. Because like any company or business model, if you fail to adapt, then you risk becoming irrelevant.
And the idea that you have a birthright to people's attention, go ask horse racing, go ask boxing. You don't.
I mean, Daryl Morey has said himself that he thinks the three-point shot should only be worth 2.5 points. Some people have suggested removing the corner three, extending the three-point line, or even widening the court. But I think most people would agree that something has to give. And if indeed something does change, I think we'll look back and say that Daryl Morey didn't in fact ruin the NBA. He just pushed the league to adapt in ways that we could have never imagined. As for the moment though, Daryl Morey and the analytical movement has certainly changed the game. Whether for better or worse is now in the hands of the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, he brings up a good point. You can't get mad at the data because the data always existed. It was just that people weren't looking at the data. So if it wasn't Daryl Morey, then eventually somebody else would have come along to look at that data and go, oh, the math is telling me to shoot more threes, more layups, and free throws. You know, it's that was always going to happen. It was just a matter of who and when. And he's the one who punched through the wall first. So yeah, we like to target him and blame him, but what is it really going to do? You know, like I like this channel, by the way. I'm glad I'm subscribed to this because I'm looking forward to more content from this channel because he brings up a lot of good points. It's not on the players, it's not on the owners or anything like that, the GMs. It's on Adam Silver right now. It's on the league to change the damn rules because basically it's been exposed. The rules have been exposed to a point where even the guy who came up with this idea, Daryl Morey, is saying we need to lower the three-point shot to 2.5 instead of 3. You know what I mean? So it's crazy to think that he's the one who kicked down the door, but he's starting to sound a little bit like me, you know, or we're starting to sound similar because we're concerned about the ratings and what the impact that this has had on just making the game so overly redundant. So how do you fix that? You lower the payout reward for the three-point shot. That changes the entire data set of those of the analytics. So the numbers will be telling you completely different things, and now the mid-range is back in play. That's all that has to happen to fix this. But we'll see. We'll see. Because in order for that to happen, then Adam Silver has to acknowledge that there's a problem, and he seems to have issue with that part of his job, that part of the accountability of his job, of acknowledging, yeah, this is a problem, we need to fix it. Instead, he's more the type of like positive or toxic positivity, where he's like, no, it's great because it is, it's great because of that, you know. So we'll see, but I hope money always talks. So if money starts going down, maybe Adam Silver will wake up and start considering some of these options. And I know it's crazy to think because we had the three-point shot since what, 1978 or 1979, all the way till now. But it has been fully exploited, fully exposed, and it's just like any other thing in the world. You have to add different regulation and different rules as systems get exploited. So this has officially been exploited, and it's been happening for 9 seasons now. Time for a change. Time to change it up. See what happens. But yeah, that's my opinion on this, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Can't wait to see what your opinion is. And yeah, like I said, this channel's got what, 13,000 subscribers. So if you like this content, highly recommend you go over there and subscribe. Let them know Mindcrime sent you or whatever. And yeah, everyone, please leave this video a like. It helps out a lot. And subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. Guys, hit that bell if you want to get notified for the next one. I appreciate you all, and I will see you guys real soon. Peace out, and be water, my friends.